Welcome, good day, welcome back for some of you. I just wanted to do a quick talk about desire today. Desire through the lens of my being, specifically. And, when I first started off, or when I first recognized that I was on a path of evolving, and we can call it the spiritual path, there comes a point in time, and you might be there now. That might be the reason this video found you, or you clicked on this video, where you realize that you're on a spiritual path, not a path that's career focused or family oriented, even, but something more personal, something that's hard to describe. So, with that being said, when we're on this path, the topic of desire arises because it's a tug and pull of morals. And you'll find that the spiritual path is very intertwined with the idea of morals. Morals kind of guide you in a way. If you are an immoral person, then you're going to struggle on the path. Let's just put it that way. So desires sort of fall into that category because they can be good or they can get you into trouble. So, in my life, desires looked like a desire for intimacy, which, by the way, desires are obviously human, they're normal, they're really not something that can be avoided. Unless you're a master or a true sage, even at that, I don't know, because I'm not that right now. But desires are something that got me into trouble, we'll say that. But they also put me closer to things that truly made my heart happy. For example, a desire to have sex got me into trouble. A desire to become a better musician set me up for opportunities that I never imagined would come to fruition in this life. A desire for a sweet treat could be just what I needed in a day, but if that desire burns too hot, then I end up feeling like crap. So, ultimately, the takeaway is in moderation with your desires. That is the key to working with them. Because at first, when I started really contemplating desires, it was more like I thought I had to cut them out of my life completely. I had to cut them out, and that's how I would ascend, essentially. But what I found was that when I tried to just straight up cut things out of my life, I was actually more of a hindrance to my progress, and it was making me unhappy. For example, let's just say sweet treats. I wanted to cut them out of my life entirely, which is, I think, pretty admirable, because I guess you don't really need them. But when I tried to cut them out, then I was craving them even more and even more. So then when I'd finally give myself permission to get one, it would be an overindulgence at that point. And I would go way too hard. So over time, I found that I just had to find a balance that worked for me. Like, okay, maybe, let's say, I love chocolate chip cookies. So let's just say, okay, I can still buy chocolate chip cookies and I can still eat them, but only 2 in a day. We'll start with that. And actually, let's go a little bit farther with this. how I kind of how I dissolved my desire to watch porn was first recognizing that I had an addiction. That was key. And then being very, very patient with myself because I had already tried going cold turkey once and it worked for half a year. For 6 months, I was doing great. And then a major life stressor happened, in my case, a breakup, and I completely relapsed hard, really, really hard. Thankfully, that only lasted a couple months and I was able to set those limits. So I knew I wasn't going to be perfect in trying to stop watching altogether. It wasn't going to be something like overnight, I'm just going to stop. Because I tried that and it worked, but it was temporary. So what I opted instead to do was say, you know what? As far as a week goes, I used the week as the bandwidth, I guess, for this process. Throughout the week, I just want to be as consistent as I can be, knowing that I'm going to fail, but I want to win most of the days. I want to have majority of the days where I have the willpower to say no and find something better to do. Because for me, I couldn't sleep if I didn't consume this right before bed, because right before bed, when there's nothing left to do, that's when my thoughts go crazy. When I'm reflecting on things that I don't even want to. So in order to quiet that, my mind and body needed to be occupied by something else. And anyone who's, I don't know anyone who hasn't really, but anyone who has consumed that knows just how tight of a grip that can have on your being. Because it's so alluring. It is. It plays with our most primal and deep-seated desires and just instincts as a human. So this actually came through, I never had the book at the time, but I was listening to the audio version of Atomic Habits. I'm sure you've heard of it before. I think it's by James Clear, but I'll put it in the description for this video just in case you haven't. I was listening to an audio version of that on my way to school because that would take me like 20-25 minutes to get to school. And that was one of the ideas, was to just try and win those majority of the battles. You know, you're not going to be perfect, but you still should aim for progress. So that helped me out a ton. Because I found that whenever I tried to do something cold turkey, it would work at first, but the relapses would slap back really hard, really, really hard. And that wasn't just with porn, that was also with whenever I was trying to stop smoking weed, same thing. Now I'm at a point where the only reason I think about these things is so that I can teach people about my process. It's not, I don't have the desire anymore, which is liberating. It's so awesome to say now. And I hope if you're struggling with that, you get to this point too. And know that you will, but really, you have to be real with yourself and you have to be patient. You have to be patient. And I find that I can be very patient and kind to other people. But when it comes to myself, I'm the most impatient and harshest critic. And you're probably the same way. I'm not going to say that's entirely a bad thing. We hold ourselves to a certain standard for a reason, but let me be the person to tell you, just in case anyone hasn't, you need to ease up on that. You need to ease up on that. It's actually so crucial to being the person you're either trying to recover or rediscover, or be the person you're aspiring to be. Discipline is definitely important, but you need to respect the process, that it takes time, especially when it comes to desire, because desires have a very, very firm grasp on our lives for good reason. Your will to want to be or achieve anything, behind that will stands the desire. The desire is what drives that will. I I think of desire as a flame, as fire. I don't know if it's because I'm a fire sign. My sun sign, at least, is Sagittarius. So I started thinking about desires as flames, flames of lust, flames of passion, these things. And the other night, I was actually talking to fire for the first time, like a friend. We had a conversation, which I know sounds really crazy. And if you want to call me crazy, that's fine. I feel like I'm in pretty good company with those crazy people. But anyway, I was talking to the fire, and we were discussing how fire can definitely be scary, but really it's only scary when it's out of control. But when it's within the constraints of a fireplace or a fire pit, it's actually quite pleasant. Maybe for some people, we can go in the opposite direction and think of water. Water in a pool could be scary, but maybe less scary because, there's no waves. You can see the bottom. Usually there's stairs or ladders leading in and out of them, as opposed to the ocean where or at least I have a fear of the ocean, which I'm slowly getting rid of, or getting better at coping with, I guess, or dealing with, working with. The ocean's scary because sometimes you can't see the bottom. You can't see what sea creatures are in there. The fact that there are sea creatures in there. Big waves, undertows, riptides. There's all these factors that we can't control. And that's what makes it scary. But when it's under control, it's not scary. So desires can easily be looked at in the same way. When they're out of control, they are scary because they're hard to deal with. But when you can tame that, not necessarily cast them out from our being, but tame them, then you can use them actually to your advantage. And that's a real sight to behold. I'll say that much. Um, Whenever I think of desires and lust in particular, I always think of sometimes driving down the highway, you see like huge billboards about lust, and how lust is the devil and this and that, and how Jesus will save you from that. I'm not bringing this to religion or anything like that today, but I do want to say that it is definitely an opposing force, but it's something that I find to be a strength that you can play to if and when you tame it. Taming that fire, doing things in moderation. So why don't I watch porn in moderation? Well, I know it does me literally no good. It does me no good. Really, I was using that to fill a void of intimacy in which I can get in much healthier places. Whether that's through myself or with another person. Not staring at a screen, something completely artificial that was lowering my vibration, making me or giving me a completely false perspective of what intimacy is, how to treat and respect other people. Deep down, on a surface level, I could, I was fine, but deep down, when things got more serious for me, when it came to intimacy, I realized I felt broken. I felt really broken inside. Even if it didn't look like that on the outside, on the inside, it never felt right. Desires can be used especially when they're blown out of proportion as bandages for deeper problems or deeper struggles, like coming home from a long day, a long week of work. Let's just say a long day. You come home from a long day of work and you just want to have like a cocktail or a beer or something like that. That's your choice, of course. But if you're going to repeat this every single day after work, that's when it becomes an issue. And that's when you have to realize that you're using that because there's another area in which you're lacking. You're using that as a way to de-stress or be happy. And I promise you there's other healthier ways, and those ways are definitely more fulfilling. Those aren't bandages. Those are like, what's a better example? What's better than a bandage? Those are like stitches or like a healing ointment. I don't know, something more long lasting, something more permanent. Because ultimately, the things that aren't permanent, those bandages, actually start hurting over time, more and more and more. An analogy that we could use is, you take you get drunk one time and that's like, it's magical. But then the very next drop you take turns into poison and it stays as poison for the rest of your days, so long as you are in that habit, that cycle. So why do I cast these things out entirely now? Well, because I don't have a need to, well, I don't have a desire for them anymore. So I don't have to worry about those highs and lows that stem from them anymore. But in getting to this point, I had to ride it out through moderation. So getting rid of desires is definitely a way to help you grow on this path, but it's one that takes a lot of time. And the reason why we shed desires is because that's what helps us mentally and spiritually That's what helps us detach from this plane of action and in doing so, preparing ourselves for the next plane, whatever that may be. But first, we have to resign from what keeps us here. And again, this is a process that takes time and a process where you have to ease off of these things so you can understand them. Because when I tried to just when I tried to just cut things out without understanding them, it didn't work because I didn't know why I was doing it, really. Like, you learn about detachment and you're like, oh, okay, so I just have to detach from these things. Easy, simple. Now, you have to understand it first to understand why you personally are detaching from that thing. Because if it's still serving you, it's still serving you in some way. Eventually, you'll reach a point where it's not. So I hope that helps. And yeah, fire can be scary. Wildfires, when they're out of control, they're horrifying. But if it's in a fire pit, if you're controlling the flow of it, if it's in a fireplace, or you can place timber in there, you can move things around, you can stifle it if you need to. That's a good feeling. You're in control of it. But you have to learn and understand it first. That goes for all of your desires. And sometimes I feel like we mix up love and desire. That's a really confusing thing to talk about. Love and desire, what the difference is there. Everyone kind of has their own stance on this. For me, desire is more, I kind of link that more to that rush, that dopamine into attaining the object of your desire, that passion. Whereas love is straight up that strong connection. It is that connection, it is that warmth, whether that be in a person or a place, a thing. Desire is that a rise of emotion that you feel. And then once you get that thing, desire is gone. And it turns into, well, let's just put it this way, because I'm having trouble trying to put labels on this process. So I'll link this back to my prior addiction to porn. It was that rush of, well, first of all, deciding, oh, should I do it tonight? Can I resist it tonight? So there's all that. And then doing it. And then once all is said and done, once the climax is there, then I'm like, crap. I feel like shit now. I couldn't do it. And even though I reach this climax, like I don't feel good about it at all. I feel like shit. And then I would do it again the next day and the next day. So what keeps you coming back, that desire, is that rush, that dopamine. So look out for that and pay attention to that. This was actually another, by reading Atomic Habits, or listening to Atomic Habits rather, that helped me realize that a lot. while I'm talking about another source, I do want to shout out some other resources that helped me along the way. Because yes, this is my perspective, but like I said in my video about perspective, it's been formed through a variety of sources. And I think part of the reason I'm making these videos is to show you why it's important to have your own opinions and have your own ideas, but recognize that they're a conglomerate of other people's ideas filtered through your being. So therefore they become your own because they have your own style to them and your own life experience, which is unique to you. Or else we become robots, or else we become the politicians that rule the world now, right? Yeah, no. So, yeah, some other resources that helped me personally. Atomic Habits was a good one. On YouTube, if you don't know Healthygamergg, Dr. K, he helped me out a ton, especially when I was going through cycles of depression. What I'll say about Dr. K's channel is that it really helped. I think it really helps people who are very analytical and logical in their thinking. But even he would admit that you can't out logic your way out of problems. You have to feel things through and you have to use your heart at the same time. So you have to take action essentially. Just by watching these videos alone, that's only like half the battle or a portion of the battle. I have a lighter because I was gonna go outside and light a candle or light a fire or something. But it was really gloomy out and there's landscapers. So I decided I'd just be inside today. And now it's just something I'm fidgeting with. Anyway, Healthy Gamer. I'll put all these people in the description. That helped me out a ton dealing with addiction and desire and ideas that had sprung up within me as I walked down this path. Also, a channel I recently came across called Predictive History. This doesn't really have much to do with desire. It does in some ways, but more so it gave me the perspective of the world that I've been looking for. Why there was I had so many questions because in history class, in my days of schooling, it was stuff that, yes, is important to know because it shows us the cycles that humans have gone through. But it really wasn't, it didn't really feel like it was pertaining to what was going on today. And on Predictive History, he explores moments in history and people in history and events that shape today for what it truly is and how it would shape tomorrow. So check him out if that's something that sounds interesting to you. What else? What else? If you are into any religions, definitely dive into that. Dive into your religions, but do it from your own perspective. Unfortunately, when it comes to religions, they can become very dogmatic, and they have a lot of certain rules that other people put in that aren't actually necessary. So you end up falling into a lot of traps that don't seem like traps because they seem good on the surface, but are actually immoral and unethical. That doesn't mean you should avoid religion, but you really just go about it through your own lens and meditate on those things that you find interesting. Um, but I just want to say, if you want to meditate on these things, you have to foster a skill, or you have to foster the quality of concentration first. Once you can concentrate, then you can meditate. Maybe someone needed to hear that. Anyone who's struggling, I struggle with that. I'm still definitely in the concentration phase of that, which is good. You want to develop that. And it's becoming harder and harder. I think we talked about this because everyone's playing with our desires now, and everyone's playing with our attention now. They have been, but with phones and screens, it's so amplified, so amplified. So the religion of your choice, or religions of your choice, maybe it's just the study of religions, but I think that would help you on your path. Even if you are atheist, go about it through your own lens. Because when it gets dogmatic, that's when problems arise. Basically, when people start personifying God or the supreme source, the supreme being, whatever you want to label it as, when people start personifying that, that's when you run into trouble. That's when a lot of conflict arises. So look out for that. Look out for that if you are doing a deeper dive into your religion or multiple religions. Just watch out for people, one, speaking on, we'll just say, like, speaking on Jesus's behalf. I use him as an example because a lot of dogmatic religions, kind of like Catholicism. I was raised in the Roman Catholic system. They'll speak on Jesus's behalf, but it's very, very skewed from what his intentions were. So look out for that. Look out for the personification of God. Just food for thought there. So that's a good resource. What else helped me? What else helped me? Socializing. Socializing helped because, again, from our video on perspectives, just getting different perspectives helps you understand that one thing that you might be obsessing over just from different angles. And I found that to be very valuable. And socializing is an action, so just taking action, touching grass, um, filling that time where you could be obsessing over one thing with something healthier. Like, for me, I love being outside, and I would love to be outside right now. But yesterday I was able to go for a bike ride after I was more or less ruminating over something in my life. It might have just been me being anxious to record this video, but I needed to just step outside and do something else. You know what? there's a lot of channels on YouTube that are these people are, I want to say mediums, but not like mediums who communicate with spirits that have passed on. One thing before I mentioned, when it comes to mediums who claim to talk to spirits that have passed on, you have to be very, very careful, because that ability is a lot more rare than you might think if you believe in it. And I'm not doubting that they're able to communicate with these spirits, but they're not the spirits you'd think they are. They're more or less shells. They're the egos of the spirits. In other words, the lower self. Imagine if you were talking to your lower self all the time, the person who's constantly criticizing you, who's constantly um, self-sabotaging. Those are the people that they're talking to. Not all of them, but honestly, probably most of them. So you're creating karma with these beings at the same time, which is not necessary. And I'm not talking about people who are reading tarot cards. I don't really know too much about that, but honestly, as so long as they're not claiming to be talking to um, someone specific, that makes me feel a little bit better at least. So maybe you would end up finding a channel like that, or maybe you already have. Um, and if that truly resonates with you, then I feel like that's good advice that you could follow. That's kind of what's gotten me a little bit further down this path. Honestly, that's kind of what pushed me to even make this channel and make these videos, was that, because it was kind of confirming that I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't delusional, or it gave me permission to feel delusional. I don't know. But yeah, those helped me out a ton. And there's like thousands of those channels. And the only reason I know about that is because it just came up on my feed randomly. Like, I didn't search for that, which was weird, but the video resonated. Like, this person had known me my whole life, and I don't know, that was crazy. Um, and if you have people in your life that you know, or that you just recently met, that it seems like you've known them for your whole life, that means you probably have known them in a past life, or maybe even it's to an extent where they're a part of your spiritual family. And that's awesome to be able to link up with those people in this lifetime. So I know in my life I'm really, really grateful for those people. So, for example, some advice I got from one of these people was to make a list of the things that make me feel good, and to come back to that list and add to it for a whole week. And I did that, and I discovered that I could fill up the time that I use. I could fill up that time, instead of obsessing or being bored even of things, with things that actually make me feel good. And also, what I found, that a lot of things that make me feel good are in the area of helping other people, or just talking to other people, or being outside, doing something, even if it's playing like one of my favorite video games. It's something. And again, in moderation. And I like to write, so sometimes I like to write letters to my friends or to people I love. So that's another resource anyway, is those channels. Very inspiring, for me at least. That's kind of what I have for resources there, and I'll include those in the description. Yeah, let me know if you have any other questions, If you'd like my perspective on other things related to desire, I can make another video about that. From this point forward, I don't really have anything set in stone that I want to discuss next. I think what I'm going to be doing is, if I just catch myself ruminating alone about something, I'm going to talk about it, and I'm going to record it for you guys, because chances are, if it's on my mind, it's on a lot of other people's minds too. So maybe through my words, we could work out whatever is bothering us. Because I think it's better to express these things and talk about these things first, come up with a plan to act on them, rather than just act out of impulse. That's usually where we run into trouble. That's where I've run into trouble. So yeah, thank you so much for clicking on this video, for listening to me ramble on about these things. I don't know if this is going to be a problem in the future, but if it is, I just want to say, this is right now, Grounded Reflections is my only channel at the time of this video. So if for some reason you see my face and hear these words coming from another channel, a different account, report those people, because it's not me, and that's theft. We don't really want to be stealing things around here. So hopefully that doesn't become a problem, but if it does, I just want to say that now. Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this one. It's a shorter video, so hopefully a little bit more digestible and a little bit more tangible and practical, because some of the ideas we're going to be talking about here are, again, these are just coming straight out of the dome here. So if it sounds incoherent, I apologize. I'm trying my best, but really not trying to take this too seriously, because we're just friends here talking. We're just friends here. I don't want to act like I'm forcing you to do anything, brainwash you into doing anything. Take what you want, leave the rest, and have a beautiful day or a beautiful night, and I'll see you in the next one. Love you guys. Peace out.